welcome to today's edition of Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. It's another exciting edition. There's a Champions League tonight. There is the post-mortem of Chelsea's big game that they played against Newcastle last night. What does that mean in the context of Chelsea's possibility of playing in Europe? What does that mean with the kind of games that are coming up for them of the international break, the FA Cup, and then the games on the horizon? Then the big ones tonight that are going to go on. Arsenal are hosting FC Porto at home at the Emirates, and then of course there's FC Barcelona that's playing against Napoli. So we are getting into the conversation, guys. If you are new to the channel, thank you very much for choosing us. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notification. It is imperative that you turn on notifications so that you are first to get all the content when we post them here. Also, if you are already a member of the Fiifi-Manfred community, then of course let us hear from you in the comment section. Like, share the link. Let us hear from you in the comment section. I'm grateful to have had you here. But then let's get straight into the conversation. Last night, Arsenal played a huge game. Chelsea, played a huge game in the English Premier League. It was a game that literally puts their possibility of playing in Europe next season either in jeopardy or the fact that they were going to go through and play in Europe next season. If you look at the kind of season that Chelsea have had, a season that has been stop-start, a season that Chelsea haven't necessarily had a smooth sail at anything. There are times where they get success in their games. There are times they don't get success in their games. There are times where they are consistent. There are times they are not consistent. But in the lead up to the game that happened against Newcastle yesterday, Chelsea had gone 4 games unbeaten. Also, they had a very, very good record playing against Newcastle yesterday. And I have a lot of the highlights for you. So stick and stay and enjoy everything now I'll put up for you as Chelsea beat Newcastle United. But quite apart from that, you look at the quality of play yesterday from players like Mikhailo Mudryk that were exceptional in their play. Now, I think the bigger takes and the bigger ask, however, is that how are Chelsea going to keep this momentum going on? Because there is Leicester City on Sunday in the FA Cup that gives them a chance to go and play at Wembley in the semi-final of the FA Cup, which is a very, very big game. Then quite apart from that, away from that, then there's going to be that big game against Burnley after the international break. Now, after the international break, the kind of games that Chelsea have are games that are manageable. Also, while these games are manageable, they're also games that are tricky. Like Burnley is a very tricky game. Burnley are in a relegation zone. They are literally the whipping boys of the English Premier League. But then again, I've seen Chelsea against teams that are literally the whipping boys and they find it difficult to hold their own against them. This should be a game that shouldn't be too much of a worry for Chelsea. They should be able to navigate it. Again, apart from that, there's also relegation stragglers, Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. Another tough game that Chelsea should be able to manage to deal with. Sheffield have conceded the most goals in the English Premier League, but then they are very resolute. Mind you, when their new manager came in, it was the last game of the first round at the Stamford Bridge, and Chelsea managed to win. It was a difficult game, however. The 3-5-2 that they play is a tough way of playing, especially against teams like Chelsea. They are a little bit brittle, and you can force them to make mistakes. However, Chelsea have proven that with time, they have grown, they've been tough, they've gone into physical battles, they've been very, very good in winning such duels. And then he believes, Mauricio Pochettino believes that this game, the one that's going to go on against Sheffield United, is another must-win game for Chelsea. Apart from that, away from that, then there's going to be that big one against Manchester United once Chelsea are done with Sheffield United. So it is Burnley, Leicester City, Burnley, Sheffield, then Manchester United comes in. Everybody knows that in recent times, it's been very, very difficult for Chelsea to go out and beat Manchester United. If they're able to get even a draw in that game, it means that Chelsea are getting close to Europa League places. Mind you, this season, even 7th can play in Europe. And in the game against Burnley, the game against Sheffield are important games that Chelsea ought to win. Immediately when they get results in there and then they win, it means that most likely they are getting close to getting something very substantial. A place in Europe next season is beckoning for them. Then tonight, there are 2 big games, and we'll analyze that for you quickly. It's a short video today. Arsenal are playing at home against Jorge Conceição's FC Porto. Mind you, even before the game starts, Porto has an advantage. Why? Because they won the first league game. Now, the thing with Porto and Arsenal games is that Porto this season, the Champions League, have scored in every away game that they've played in. When they went to Shakhtar Donetsk in Poland, they went to score a goal in there. I mean, all the games that they've played in, they've scored goals. So that's the thing with Porto. They manage to score goals even when they go away. Now, it was more like their goalkeeper and their coach, Conceição and Rui Costa, throwing a challenge to Arsenal and saying, hey, are you sure you have enough and what it takes to break us down at the Stadio de Dragão? Of course, Arsenal weren't able to do that. They lost by a goal to 0. Now it's the big one at the Emirates. Mikel Arteta has said that he believes that Emirates should be vociferous and should come in their full voices and then make sure that they try and turn things around for Arsenal. What you ought to know is that every time that Porto and Arsenal have met, Porto have lost every time they come to play at Emirates, and Arsenal have lost every time they go and play in Porto. So it's about the margin with which Arsenal can win today's game. It is clear that Porto are going to score. Arsenal will likely score as well. But it's about the margins with which Arsenal can win today's game. That will most likely give them a chance of qualifying. Because if they just score one and Porto doesn't score, it means that the game goes into extra time and then penalties. Then we'll see who goes through. Now, we've not seen the Champions League go into penalties for a very, very long time. In the recent history of the Champions League, almost every game is decided at worst before the final is decided in extra time. So there's a likelihood that we don't go straight to finals. It's going to be somewhere in extra time, but Arsenal need to score and prevent Porto from scoring. Now, that means the game is going to be very physical, a very, very physical game. And if you look at the Arsenal players in Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, Kyrgios, these are very, very physical specimens. These are players that can go into battles, win duels, and everything against Porto. Now, the likes of Zaidu, Sanusi, and then also Gonzalez in the Porto team, and of course Ivan Nelson are all also very physical players. So the game is going to be largely physical. But one of the things that Arsenal ought to do and do very well is to try and exert control in the game. So Jorginho, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey when he comes into the game, and then of course Martin Odegaard. And as much as they get the ball, there should be a lot of ball retention in the attacking third and have sustained spells of pressure to be able to pin Porto back. If the game becomes more of a basketball game, it becomes end-to-end, Porto comes in, Arsenal goes in, and then the game doesn't really settle, then Arsenal are going to be in trouble. They need to calm the game as calm, get the game as calm as possible, and then now punch holes in how Porto play, find ways to break them down brick by brick, and then definitely they are going to get, because of course they have the quality. Gabriel Jesus has retained. There is already kind of that scoring in there for the team as well. There is a Dean Ketia that's still on the bench. Trossard, Gabriel Martinelli, Bukayo Saka will be important in terms of ball retention in the attack. And Jorginho, Declan Rice, and mind you, Arsenal also very excellent in set pieces. And this again is going to be important. But remind you, Arsenal literally can play into Porto's hands, because the Champions League is about the functional play. It's about how you push up, you come and attack, you leave spaces, and somebody makes you good use of the space. And that's exactly why Carlo Ancelotti's Real Madrid in recent times have been very, very good, almost excellent in terms of the Champions League, because you come at them, you chase them, you leave spaces in behind. They have spatial eaters, they get into space. They have pacey players get into space, and then they hurt you. And that's the thing with that. But I'm still tipping that Arsenal should have enough to qualify tonight in the Champions League ahead of FC Porto. Now, apart from the Arsenal game, there's a big one also, as FC Barcelona stays at home to play against SSC Napoli. But there's one thing that you need to know. After everything that Barcelona are doing, what is certain is that they need the atmosphere at Anfield. They need Anfield spirits to be at home today, because Napoli are not going to be a pushover. Yes, this is not the Napoli side that used to play very, very well. This is not the Napoli side under Luciano Spalletti. It's a Walter Mazzarri Napoli side aren't doing so well. But then again, they have the quality. They have the likes of the players of Victor Osimhen, Kavica Kvaratskhelia, Zombo Anguissa. These are all top players that can hurt anybody. Mind you, also Barca themselves aren't playing particularly well. You look at Robert Lewandowski, who isn't really scoring, has to drop deep to come and combine and play. The automatisms from the right-hand side with Joao Felix and the likes aren't really working very well. Then you look at other players like Christensen, who's now playing the middle of the park, has to be more like a destroyer, not necessarily somebody like a Sergio Busquets that becomes a register and has the game going through him. Frankie de Jong is out, then Ike Gunnar has to be doing the box-to-box job, helping with defense, but essentially he's not a space eater, doesn't really cover a lot of space, doesn't even have a lot of the legs to do that job as well. Barca's back four is really torn apart with injuries and whatnot. But of course, Marc-Andre ter Stegen is in. But essentially, it's a Barcelona team that is beatable, and that's why I think that Napoli are going to score. But I still do believe that Barca have what it takes to qualify in tonight's Champions League. This is where we draw the curtain. My name again is Fiifi-Manfred. As always, thank you very much. If you've not subscribed to the channel, again, and of course, if you've enjoyed the video to this point, then you have to subscribe to the channel and turn on notification. I will hear from you later. Have a good night. Bye.